Was there ever a better decade for music than the 1970s? I mean, come on. We got bands like Led Zeppelin, The Who, and yes, even the Bee Gees. But today, we're not talking about those all-time greats that everyone loves. Nope. Today, we're diving into the bands that everyone seems to love, to hate. Now, before we jump in, let's just get one thing straight. We're all friends here, right? Because musical taste is wildly subjective. And just because some people cringe when they hear these bands doesn't mean they don't have a place in someone's heart. So, with that said, grab your bell-bottoms, get your shag carpet ready, and let's take a nostalgic stroll through some of the most questionable musical acts of the 1970s. First up, let's talk about the Buggles. Yes, those guys responsible for Video Killed the Radio Star, the very first music video to ever air on MTV. Kind of poetic, right? A song about how video was changing the music industry ended up kicking off the music video era. Now, was it a catchy song? Sure. But here's the thing. The rest of the Buggles' catalog, it's like someone tried to make music that would play during the final boss level of an old-school arcade game. Bleeps, bloops, and synthesizers. Think of it as a slightly off-brand Beatles vibe, but, for the 70s. And that name, the Buggles, was inspired by Trevor Horn's oversized glasses, which made him look bug-eyed. Did the Buggles make some fun, bouncy tunes? Sure. Did they get big? Yep. But they're definitely one of those bands people love to throw shade at. Why? Because they were just a little too quirky, even for the 70s. But hey, they did secure a little slice of music history, so props to them. Next on our list, Donaldson and The Heywoods. Ever heard of them? If not, you've definitely heard their infamous song, Billy Don't Be a Hero. The band is British, but this tune was supposed to be about the American Civil War. And yet, somehow, it became an anthem that people associated with the Vietnam War. Talk about unintended consequences. It's one of those songs with a dark subject matter, but an oddly upbeat tune, making war sound, dare I say, almost lighthearted. So naturally, it rubbed people the wrong way. Now, Billy Don't Be a Hero was their only big hit, but it was big enough to secure their place on this list. I mean, it's like a war ballad wrapped up as a bubblegum pop tune. But who am I to judge? If you're into awkwardly peppy songs about serious topics, maybe Donaldson and The Heywoods are for you, or maybe not. Now let's move on to Edison Lighthouse. Who? Exactly. This English pop band was active from 1969 to 1977 and had one hit song, Love Grows Where My Rosemary Goes. That's it, their claim to fame. And here's the kicker. The lead singer, Tony Burrows, left the band right after the song blew up. Just imagine being the one voice behind a band's only big hit and then just peacing out. But the band kept going anyway, keeping the name Edison Lighthouse and performing without him. They're actually still touring today, if you can believe it. The name was inspired by the Edison Lighthouse, which is apparently the world's first offshore lighthouse. Fitting for a band that's drifting off into the distance, right? And hey, good for them for sticking around all these years. But the critics? Oh, they were not kind. Edison Lighthouse often gets remembered as another one-hit wonder, and their cheery pop sound didn't win them many lifelong fans. All right, brace yourself, because we're about to talk about Genesis. Yeah, you heard me? Genesis. This might surprise some of you, because Genesis actually had some big hits. But if you dig around online, you'll find plenty of people who really didn't like them, especially in their early years. And let's be honest, Genesis did have a bit of an identity crisis. They started out as a progressive rock band with complicated, deep lyrics. But by the late 70s, they'd shifted into a more radio-friendly sound that left fans scratching their heads. Some people say they peaked in the 80s, while others think they never found their groove. And even though Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins are incredible musicians, Genesis is still one of those bands people debate about. Were they brilliant? Confusing? Overrated? Depends on who you ask. And that's why Genesis lands on our list as one of those love-to-hate bands of the 70s. And then there's Morris Albert. Ever heard his song Feelings? You know the one. Feelings. Nothing more than feelings. This song is about as vague as it gets. He just keeps singing about feelings over and over, without ever telling us what they are. And look, I'm all for poetic lyrics, but this one leaves you wanting way more than he's offering. Feelings has been called one of the most annoying love songs of all time, and for good reason. It's like that itch you can't quite scratch. And to make matters worse, Morris Albert didn't even come up with the melody himself. In 1988, he lost a lawsuit over the song because it turned out he'd stolen the melody from a French composer. Ouch. So, let's just say Morris Albert left his mark on the 70s, but not exactly in a good way. Now we get to Captain and Tennille. And if you thought Feelings was bad, wait until you hear about Muskrat Love. Yup, Muskrat Love. I don't know who thought a song about rodents in love was a good idea, but Captain and Tennille went all in. Originally, it was supposed to be called Muskrat Candlelight, which, if possible, sounds even creepier. Somehow, this song became a hit, even leading Captain and Tennille to perform it for Queen Elizabeth at the White House in 1976. Just picture it. Queen Elizabeth sitting there, while Captain and Tennille serenade her with Muskrat Love. I mean, who approved that? Anyway, Captain and Tennille were one of those quirky couples, but in 2014, after 40 years of marriage, they divorced and went their separate ways. It's kind of sad, honestly, but Muskrat Love still haunts people to this day. Go ahead, try to listen to it without cringing. Now let's talk about Rupert Holmes. If you're a fan of pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, you can thank or blame Rupert Holmes. His 1979 hit Escape, the Pina Colada song, has become a classic for anyone who enjoys a little light-hearted tropical escapism. But here's the thing. Holmes has admitted he doesn't even like pina coladas. And after hearing this song one too many times, a lot of people would probably agree. While the song is fun, it's also incredibly cheesy, and it's one of those tunes that has people instantly divided. Some folks love it, while others absolutely despise it. But Holmes actually had a fascinating career outside of the Pina Colada song. He later became a successful playwright, even winning a Tony Award for his musical, The Mystery of Edwin Drood. So he's definitely got talent. But even with all his success, Holmes will always be remembered for that one song. And yes, probably while people are sipping pina coladas on vacation. So there you have it. A lineup of some of the most controversial bands of the 1970s. These are the bands that may not have stood the test of time as gracefully as some others. But hey, maybe that's what makes them memorable. They took risks, they tried new things, and they made music that people are still talking about, even if that talk sometimes comes with an eye roll. So, what do you think? Which band is the worst band of the 70s? Did we miss anyone? Let us know in the comments, and if we've unfairly labeled one of your favorites, feel free to drop a song recommendation. I'm always open to discovering some new, old tunes. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, please like this video and subscribe our channel for latest gossip.